Guys, so just going through a couple of student questions from recent webinars, and this question arose from our Ground of Theory interview that we had with Dr. Linley Howard-Payne. It was a great session, so go back and find that on the channel and have a look at that interview with Dr. Linley Howard-Payne. It was really very good. So what do you think of using Ground of Theory in mixed methods design, and does this affect the sample size? So yes, you can use it in mixed methods, but remember that you have to clearly define the method that you've chosen, the sort of research design or the overall process that you're following for your study. Now, if you try and integrate ground of theory into another method, you might have a hard time actually defining, what that final method looks like, because you're combining methods now. And ground theory, I think, is best used on its own, I would say. I think you can supplement it, like I did with a bit of a frequency analysis, but then I put that in appendix. And there could be maybe like a little bit of case study piece that you add in there. But, you know, grounded theory assumes that everything is data, and that you then go through a sort of series of practices, line by line coding, axial coding, theoretical sampling, theoretical sensitivity, memos, um, abstraction up into a higher level, from which you then inductively develop a new theory, which is obviously grounded in the data. So yes, technically you can, but I wouldn't, because it then just complicates things. Like, for example, sample size. You now are unable to benchmark your study against others, because you might not find that many studies that have uniquely combined methods in exactly the same way as you have. Whereas there's a lot more just standard, I would say, grounded theory studies, and then your comparison is really about the field and the actual topic that you're working on, to be able to make a comparison around sample size. So, for example, in my thesis, I did a benchmark to compare sample size with a lot of other studies, because I could do that very simple comparison. It was quick and easy for me to see, which other studies were relevant, which other studies I could compare to, and then, suggest to the examiner whether or not my sample size was within the range of those other benchmark studies. So ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to demonstrate that your sample size is correct or appropriate for the study that you're doing. And the more complex you make your method, the more complex or difficult it's going to be for you to compare your studies to others. So I think that would just be a little bit of advice. The grounded theory is going to be hard work anyway, and it is difficult to get your head around, and you're going to need to learn quite a lot in order to do a successful ground theory study. So I wouldn't complicate it unnecessarily. Ground theory is going to give you more than enough structure and work to do as part of your degree.